Welcome back. Now we're getting into the second half of the X-Men 97 premiere. It's a video that got so long I had to make the review a two-parter. If you want to hear my thoughts on the first episode, the thing should be around here somewhere. Go watch that right now if you haven't. It'll give you a little more context on how I feel about this one. Anyway, I've got a ton of editing to do. Let's just get to it. Episode 2 begins on Coney Island where the Ferris wheel collapses with a kid stuck on it. The wheel breaks off, nearly kills a bunch of people, but Magneto saves them, conveniently in full view of the TV cameras. Might be a coincidence? I'm just saying, they didn't show how the Ferris wheel broke down. The news exposits that Magneto's been doing stuff like this all over the country after failing to launch a mutant rebellion during the time jump. He also saves the Morlocks from the Friends of Humanity, and I'm curious where he's getting his intel because he's showing up in the right place at the right time a lot all of a sudden. Scott's paying close attention to this, wondering if the professor didn't trust him enough to run things, but Jean thinks that maybe Charles did this for them so they could go have a life. Jean has been leaning on this idea that it's time for them to leave pretty hard, and with what happens later, that's kind of suspect. Anywho, the team discusses this Magneto situation. Why would the professor leave him everything, blah blah. Weirdly enough, nowhere in this conversation is it mentioned that Magneto's still a wanted criminal, you know, because of all the terrorism. Recent good deeds notwithstanding, you'd think that would be a deal breaker when it comes to running a school. Rogue thinks they should give Eric a chance. Really? So you and Magneto are on a first name basis now, huh, Rogue? Ugh. Shit. Shit. The Rogue-Magneto relationship is something I have never, ever liked in the comics. I don't care how anyone tries to justify it, it is fucking gross. For a number of reasons. Even if you take out the fact that he's at least as old as Xavier, if not older, and she was a teenager when it happened. I was really hoping they wouldn't go down this road, but it's here now, and the way they're gonna set it up in a minute makes it even worse. So yeah, Rogue, I fucking see you. So does Gambit, though he keeps it to himself for now. Eric strolls in, boasting about how he's used Xavier's finances to relocate the Morlocks to Genosha, because nothing bad ever happens to mutants in Genosha, and declares that the fact he didn't kill the Friends of Humanity is undeniable proof that he's a good guy now and totally trustworthy. Yeah, no, that's not really how it works, old man. Cyclops, to his credit, isn't buying this and thinks they should just scan Magneto telepathically to find out how sincere he actually is, but Jean says, no, let's not do that. I mean, this is only something that could have incredibly dire consequences for all of them if it blows up in their faces, but let's not take the most basic common sense precaution imaginable, no matter how sketchy this looks. Good call, Jean! Nothing is really resolved here. Magneto's laying it on super thick, and frankly, he looks suspicious as hell, but they're leaning toward letting him stay for now because it's what the professor wanted. By the way, did any of them check with the lawyers to see how authentic that will Magneto produced was? I would double check that shit if I were you. There's a good scene with Jean and Storm. Jean confesses that she wishes the baby will not be a mutant, because if he is, then how does she tell him he's different? How does she tell him that the world will judge him and treat him harshly? Her confessing these things to a black woman makes this more poignant, I think. They don't put too sharp of a point on that, but I saw what they were doing. Storm reassures her that things will be okay. These two are like sisters. The X-Men are a family. It's a nice moment. I like this scene. Then Rogue talks to Magneto, alone. Ugh. They mentioned that Xavier's sacrifice created a world that's more tolerant of mutants, which, again, we've seen zero evidence of so far. Hell, the Storm Jean scene pretty much said the exact opposite. But Magneto feels indebted to Charles to carry on his dream, or so he says, and Rogue says that if he wants trust, he has to earn it like she did. And then they spell it out for us that these two do indeed have some kind of romantic history. So it doesn't start now, it happened a long time ago. And I am calling bullshit on this. That was absolutely never a thing in the old show. Look, even if the 30 to 40 year age difference wasn't enough to put the brakes on this, and if it wasn't, it fucking should have been, where in the timeline does it possibly fit? When the hell could it have even happened? Was it in between the times when Magneto was hijacking missile bases and blowing up chemical plants?
You've wasted enough of my time.
Probably not. Was it before Rogue joined the X-Men? Which would make it even creepier because she was even younger and more vulnerable then? Did she somehow keep it a secret all this time when she was living in the same house as the two most powerful telepaths in the world? This is up. It's super awkward even by retcon standards. It's so clumsy, and when and how it could have happened is so nonsensical, it's baffling to me. It was a thing in the comics. I can't change that. It was creepy then too. But god damn it, this comes dangerously close to something YouTube would demonetize this video for if I talked about it. And writing-wise, just think about it for 5 seconds and it completely falls apart. I fucking hate this. I hate the very idea of it. Writers, if you have to do this story, please be tasteful about it. That's all I ask. You're gonna have to walk a very fine line on this one. He tries to take her gloves off. She pulls back this time. That's in the past. It needs to stay there. But it's clear that she can touch him somehow, which does tick a lot of boxes for Rogue, so I guess that's how she rationalizes this. But thankfully, the adults show up at this point when Val Cooper flies in and reminds everybody that, hey, Magneto did a lot of terrorism.
He and his growing legion of followers attacked power plants, factories, government buildings.
So, after proving that he could kill them all in a pinch if he wanted to, Magneto surrenders himself to the UN under the assumption that he'll get a fair trial. And fair trial or not, he's guilty as hell, so that should just be a formality before he's sent to federal pound-me-in-the-ass prison for a few lifetimes. Let's see how eager he is to prove himself trustworthy when that's on the table. They do the trial, the X-Men are in attendance, there's protesters outside furious that this is even happening. Magneto speechifies to the UN, painting himself as more of a victim, and human inventions like sentinels and inhibitor collars are tools of oppression, and he's only ever acted to avenge crimes against mutants.
One place is as good as another. As long as it is populated with Homo sapiens, human lives can be used as bait.
Okay, that's certainly a very loose interpretation of those events if you gloss over almost all of it, but he's still coming off so disingenuous you'd think he was a politician. Cool story. Still terrorism. The Friends of Humanity show up again, and Claw Scar guy suits up as the Executioner from the Executioner song arc in the comics. Dang, that one takes me back. They start stirring shit up, which Magneto seems weirdly amused about, almost as if he couldn't have scripted this any better. I'm just saying this is all going to be very beneficial for him, so just make a note of that. Storm stays with Magneto while the other X-Men go to deal with this. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, pregnant Jean staggers over to Logan and says, "He's here!" And Wolverine's like, "Who? Apocalypse?" I don't know why I laughed. It really shouldn't have been funny, but it was. He races Jean to the hospital, and this kid is in a big rush to get out. Her powers are going completely bonkers, so it won't be long. Rioters breach the UN, Executioners packing energy-resistant armor and some fancy-schmancy gun. He takes out a bunch of the X-Men easily, so this dude is no joke. He beats the crap out of Cyclops for a minute, and this was actually kind of brutal. They even show blood. This scene goes pretty hard. It's at this moment that Jean tells Scott via telepathy that the baby's coming, as if he didn't have enough to worry about. So Rogue is gonna fly him to the hospital because there's so much he can do there that the doctors can't, while Storm takes charge. Now, after the way she took out those Sentinels, you'd think Storm should be able to put a stop to this whole situation in short order. She's certainly powerful enough. But for some reason, she orders the UN guards to take off Magneto's inhibitor collar so he can help, which, given what he's on trial for, given what he did the last time he took the floor at the UN, sounds like the stupidest thing these guards could do, but they do it. At the hospital, the doctor is refusing to deliver Jean's baby because her powers are going nuts and she's a danger to everyone around her right now. I'm sure not delivering the baby will fix that, so Rogue absorbs the doctor's memories and she does it. Baby Cable gets born, Scott and Jean are blissfully happy, while Wolverine and Rogue both look miserable watching this for very different reasons. Now uncollared, Magneto and Storm easily deal with the rioters until the Executioner breaks out that BFG and Storm for some fucking reason, jumps in front of the shot meant for Magneto, because he's totally earned that, right?
He and his growing legion of followers attacked power plants, factories, government buildings.
And womp womp, Storm is now depowered. That's what made the gun so schmancy. That's another story from the comics. They've taken some liberties with it, and the bad guys say the gun can only be used once, which feels like a huge cop-out, but we'll see where this goes. Storm instantly freaks the hell out, dissolving into tears, which Magneto wastes no time in using to make himself look like the hero. He takes the Executioner and the UN judges up into the sky, speechifying that he could easily kill this asshole, but he won't, because they all have to share this world and whatnot, and he's totes a good guy now. And so the UN gives Magneto a full pardon for his incredibly heroic act of not murdering anyone at his own trial, because that made all his past terrorism okay. If you say so, writers.
Determined to disrupt human society, paving the way for mutant takeover.
Afterward, we find out that Genosha is getting admitted to the UN, which is weird because Genosha was already in the UN. Me for paying attention, I guess. And somehow this is because of Magneto. So things couldn't have worked out better for Mags here, and I am stunned that more people aren't questioning this. Gambit is, but that's for other reasons. So Scott trusts Magneto to run things now, which means he feels more at ease about him and Jean piecing out. But there's bad news, because after analyzing Storm, Beast thinks the depowering effect may be permanent, so she leaves immediately. She doesn't bother getting more tests or talking to Moira McTaggart or Forge or anything. She just writes Jean a goodbye letter and hops on a bus. This happens so quickly it's downright bizarre. Slow the F down, writers. You're only in episode 2 here. Now the team is down an Omega level badass, which makes Magneto even more invaluable to them. Gambit thinks Magneto should have taken that shot, not Storm. And yeah, I'm with him. This whole situation is fishy as and not even because of the rogue thing, though that's not helping. There's another scene with them confirming that she can touch Eric, and later emerges from his office with her glove off and her sleeve rolled up. I don't even want to think about what went on in there. It's like bugs crawling up my fucking skin. Gambit sees this, and he's as happy about Rogue getting handy with Magneto as I am. Dude looks like the bottom dropped out of his stomach. I so wish we could have just not done this one, but we've officially got ourselves a love triangle. Yay! My favorite thing. And before Storm's departure can even sink in, the doorbell rings and it's Jean. Another Jean. We've got 2 Jeans. Looks like it's full steam ahead for the Madeline Pryor story. I wasn't sure if they'd do that one. So it's only a matter of time before Sinister shows up, and oh man, they'd better do him justice. This gets me excited. Sinister was one of the creepiest villains you'll ever see on what was technically a kid's show. Beats me how you pull that off on Disney Plus, but he could be a make or break villain for X-Men 97. If they fumble the ball on him, you are gonna hear about it. I've seen almost universal glowing praise for this premiere online, and I get it. I know how enticing nostalgia bait can be, and there's some top tier nostalgia bait here. But to me, this had all the signs of an impending writing collapse. For starters, they're trying to juggle so many storylines all at once. Sentinels, the birth of Cable, the trial of Magneto, Bishop joining the team off screen, Storm depowered, the Executioner, Madeline Pryor, and so on, and blasting through them so damn fast, it may only be a matter of time before it all comes crashing down. Don't believe me? That's fine. We can wait and find out together. But I've seen this type of thing happen a lot, and it almost always ends the same way. If you have any faith that today's Marvel writers will be able to not make a mess of this, well, just look at what they've done to the comics and the MCU in the last few years. I know I'm fixated on this. I know. I'm sorry. I'm just not buying the Magneto redemption thing. Not the way they did it, at least. That was eventually the direction he went in back in the day, but that was a very slow burn. And even then, he never really became a straight-up good guy. Here, everything just falls perfectly into place for him way too conveniently and way too quickly for there to not be something screwy going on here. Even if if said screwy thing was just the writers missing the mark. If this is legit and he's not working an angle of some kind, then I'm at a loss, because that doesn't add up. To me, Magneto secretly manipulating these events for some other purpose is the only way this makes any sense. I don't know how the hell he could have done that, but the only other answer is that plot convenience was cranked up to 15 just so they could get the trial of Magneto over and done with as fast as humanly possible, which would be another writing issue I'm kind of struggling with here. And then the massive fucking retcon needed to say that Rogue and Magneto were a thing in the past when that obviously never happened. Maybe I'm in the minority. I'm sure I am. But there are storytelling choices here that feel awkward and ham-fisted to me, and I think a lot of people are not seeing that right now because ZOMG nostalgia. And I'm not immune to that either. There's plenty of stuff in this premiere that my inner child thought was cool as hell. But once the novelty wears off a little bit, the cracks in the foundation are gonna become more obvious. Just wait for it. This premiere did a lot of things right. Fan service, no kid gloves, great production values, good action, a serious tone. Thank you. It knew the right buttons to push to get the audience of which I'm a member in the door. There is a lot to like here. It also has problems that I don't see many people talking about right now and which I think are gonna get worse. Retcons, flimsy storytelling, pacing issues. There's a lot you can poke holes in already. Am I being too anal about this? Am I nitpicking too much? I don't even give a shit this time. X-Men the Animated Series is special to me. If they with it, you can be damn sure I'll be there to tell everyone why and how it doesn't work. The jury's out for now. Believe me, I hope I'm f***ing wrong about this, and the rest of the season knocks my socks off. If it does, I'll gladly eat humble pie on this one. But if it plays out like I'm afraid it will, like many other recent Marvel projects have, buckle up, because this could get ugly. Thanks so much for watching this video, which I really did not intend to be so long. How often I make X-Men 97 videos will depend on the views, so if you want more, you know what to do. Ding the bell icon and follow my social media so you can always be notified when I upload new stuff. The links are down there. And do all the other YouTube things. Hit that thumbs up, share the video, subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you're still subscribed. That's all for now. I'll be back with more soon. See you next time.